each other before or everything like that. So it was really interesting. Like the way that we met was, I was seeing someone within a real estate group, and we went to the bar, and it was always for networking and everything like that. And I think it was fairly shortly after you got your license, right?
Mm-hmm.
And someone wound up inviting him out, and then just as everybody's talking to each other, we struck up a conversation, and I was like, oh yeah, and then I moved out from Michigan. He was like, you lived in Michigan? Where? And I was like, oh, Flint, Michigan. He was like, no way, I lived in Michigan. I was like, what?
This story gets way crazier than
yeah,
this.
because I mean,
crazier
it is so rare to come across a Michigander down here in Texas.
Okay, what is it called? A what?
A Michigander.
A Michigander. I was like, a Michiganite or.
So it's Michigander if you're in the Lower Peninsula, and it's a Youper, if you're from the Upper Peninsula.
They call us trolls because we're from below the bridge.
Below the bridge.
There's a bridge between the Upper and Lower Peninsula or whatever.
That's funny.
Yep.
But what's even crazier that I think is even more wild is before I even met Liz, Melissa and Joe, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had a boat on Lake Houston too, and they were staying at Tim and Chelsea's house.
Yeah.
And we were coming in one day because a storm had rolled in, and they were going out. And I'm like, where are you guys going? All these boats are coming out of the thing, and they're like, oh yeah, somebody on the other side of the lake had. Is it okay if I tell this?
Oh, 100%.
Okay. Somebody on the other side of the lake is missing or whatever, and I was like, holy shit. Okay, so we all like turn around, go across. So this is on the Crosby side. We go over to the other side, which is like Water's Edge over there, and Walden
the
and
bridges.
all that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they never ended up finding. Well, that day we didn't end up finding the person, right? Whatever. So fast forward like 2 years later, I meet her in the bar or whatever, and Michigan and music and blah blah blah. She starts telling me like, "Hey, my husband passed away."
No, it actually wasn't. I didn't know about that until our first open mic at Green.
Yes, yeah.
Because we just happened to be talking when we were waiting to go up. And I don't remember how it started, but either you asked about what happened to Ben or something like that came up. And I was like, oh yeah, like, well, there was a accident on Lake Houston back in 2020 and everything. And as I was explaining it, like he was just,
my face is just turning white at this point.
He's like, oh my gosh. And then I was like, is everything okay? And you were like,
I was there. Like, I was there that day.
You were like I went out with my friends to go look.
I was telling her, Joe and Melissa and all them were coming out of the canal when we were coming in. And they're like, yeah, somebody,
Hey, really?
And so I didn't realize this until like 2 years later or whatever when we met. Like, we were talking, at the bar or whatever, and then we started talking music, and then we're like, okay, we went to our very first open mic night, and like that was the night that clicked for the both of us.
Well, and it was so crazy too because
it was Ben that we were looking for that day, and that was her, Ben.
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
And it was interesting too because
fate.
when we first started just like chatting whenever we just happened to be in the same group, out at the bar or whatever for the real estate stuff. We always kind of were like, oh yeah, well if you ever have a jam session with the people, just shoot me a text, invite me over, like I'll do a jam session with you. And gosh, it was a while before we actually ever like played together though, because we were kind of like, oh yeah, that'd be cool, and then psh, and like every once in a while we'd run into each other within that real estate group. But
I think you pushed the issue one day. You're like, hey, let me come over on whatever day it was. That was like the very first time that we got together.